In the golden sands of Dubai, where the desert kisses the horizon and the wind carries secrets untold, there lived a man whose heart spoke in poetry and silence, Sheikh Hamdan bin Mohammed al Maktoum, the crown prince of Dubai. To the world, he was Fazza, the poet prince, the horseman of the dunes, the leader of youth. Yet beneath the shimmer of titles and the power of legacy, his heart guarded a story that even time hesitated to tell, the story of a love so deep it became a prayer whispered between the stars. He met her not in a palace, but in a fleeting moment of destiny, one that would forever alter the rhythm of his soul. She was unlike anyone he had ever known, not captivated by his fame, nor dazzled by the grandeur that surrounded him. Her eyes reflected calmness, like a moon that refused to bow before the sun. She carried with her a kind of quiet strength that disarmed the prince's defenses, leaving only the man, raw, vulnerable, and deeply human. In her presence, the noise of the world faded, and only her laughter remained, soft, endless, haunting. Days turned into weeks, and weeks melted into months. Between royal duties and endless engagements, his heart found sanctuary in the thought of her. He wrote verses he could never publish, lines drenched in the ache of longing. In the privacy of his journals, her name became the rhythm of every word, her face the metaphor behind every poem. The desert, his eternal muse, began to change its tone, it no longer sang of solitude, but of devotion. The winds that once whispered his name now murmured hers, entwined with his heartbeat. There were nights when he would ride across the vast dunes, his horse galloping beneath the moonlight, his thoughts consumed by her. The stars seemed to listen, the sky holding witness to the confession he could never make aloud. For a man of his stature, love was both a privilege and a prison, one that demanded silence when his soul yearned to shout. Yet, his heart, untamed and loyal, continued to whisper her name in secret. Even amidst the echo of royal obligations, that single whisper became his truth. Sheikh Hamdan's love was not the kind sung in public, nor adorned in ceremonies. It was the kind that lived quietly between the lines, a sacred flame guarded from the world's gaze. He knew that every choice he made rippled through his nation, that his life was not entirely his own. But love, real love, cares little for boundaries or crowns. It waits patiently, defying distance, time, and destiny itself. And so, he waited, not as a prince, but as a man whose heart had found its compass in a woman's soul. There were times when they met again, fleeting, fragile moments stolen from eternity. Her presence was a soft rebellion against the rules of power. They spoke little, but their silence spoke volumes. Each glance, each breath shared between them, was a poem unfinished, a prayer unanswered. He longed to tell her that she was more than just a muse, she was the meaning behind his every verse, the heartbeat beneath his kingdom's rhythm. But he feared that saying it aloud might break the spell. So, he kept it within, letting his poetry speak where his lips could not. Rumors often swirled around him, of wealth, of power, of mystery. Few understood that beneath the diamond lights of Dubai, there existed a heart unguarded, aching for something far simpler. The world saw his smile, his horses, his travels, but not the way he stared at the horizon, lost in thought, tracing her name in the sands of memory. Those who knew him well sensed that his poetry came from a place both divine and wounded, as if every word was a confession wrapped in beauty. The desert became his confidant. He would stand before the endless expanse, listening to the whisper of the wind, feeling her presence in every grain of sand that touched his skin. It was as if the earth itself remembered her, carrying traces of her laughter through the dunes. His horses, too, seemed to understand, they galloped with urgency, as if trying to outrun his longing. And though the world called him a ruler, he knew in his heart that he was merely a servant, to love, to poetry, to her. Her absence was not a void, but a presence, one that lived in every corner of his world. It followed him through meetings, lingered in his prayers, and echoed through his dreams. Sometimes, he would catch a glimpse of.
Years passed, and with them came the slow hush of maturity, the kind that doesn't numb the heart but teaches it to breathe differently. Sheikh Hamdan found himself watching the world through a gentler gaze, one that carried both wisdom and wistfulness. He had learned that time does not erase love, it only refines it, shaping it into something sacred. In the quiet of the night, when the city lights shimmered like constellations upon the water, he would still hear her, not her voice, but the essence of her presence, brushing softly against the chambers of his memory. Love had become his shadow, unseen but inseparable. There were moments when duty called him far from home, to distant lands, where handshakes replaced emotion, and diplomacy masked desire. Yet no matter where he went, the world reminded him of her in fragments, the tilt of a stranger's smile, the echo of a familiar scent, the melody of a language they once spoke in silence. Each reminder was a wound and a gift. He realized that love, when true, does not demand proximity. It survives in remembrance, thriving quietly in the heart's unspoken spaces. One evening, as the sun bled gold over the desert horizon, he returned to the place where it all began, the dunes that once held their laughter, the wind that once tangled with her hair. Standing there, he felt the years collapse into a single heartbeat. The desert was unchanged, timeless as ever, yet he was different, wiser, more grounded, but still carrying that same ache. He closed his eyes and whispered her name into the wind, not in longing, but in gratitude. It was not a cry for what was lost, but a thank you for what had been. He began to understand that perhaps some loves are meant not to be lived, but to be remembered. They are the kind of loves that guide you, soften you, and teach you how to feel the divine within the ordinary. In her absence, she had become his muse, his reason to write, his reminder that even power means nothing without tenderness. And in that realization, he found peace. His love for her was no longer a secret burden, it was a crown invisible, yet eternal, resting upon his heart. Years turned into decades, and Dubai flourished under his watchful care. The people saw in their crown prince a man of vision and compassion, not realizing that every act of kindness he offered was a ripple born from that ancient love. Her influence, though unseen, had shaped his legacy. The gentleness in his voice, the empathy in his eyes, they were all fragments of the woman whose love had once touched him.